All right, go ahead. Thank you.
All right, call to order the April 14th, 2021 meeting of the Victorian Village Commission. Our next business meeting will be Wednesday, April 28th, 2021 at noon. It will be conducted virtually via WebEx. Our next regular commission hearing will be Wednesday, May 12th, 2021 at 4:00 p.m. It will be conducted virtually via WebEx. Staff, Kim, do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Kimberly Bernard Sheehy.
Thank you. Let's all, we have a quorum barely. Let's all introduce ourselves. Aaron?
Hello, Jack.
Aaron Moriarty is present. Thomas Siwo, are you here?
I'm here. J. Thomas Siwo present.
Jeffrey Hissam, are you here?
I'm here.
You're here. Jack Decker, the chair is here. There are 4 of us. 2 additional commissioners will be joining us later. I have an initial matter because it will be about an hour before Mr. Conyers is going to be with us, and he has apparently a long list of questions and concerns about the Kaufman Project, 23 West 2nd. I propose that we delay consideration of that application until he's able to join us and juggle. Also, Mr. Sullivan is going to be delayed. Kim and I have forgotten how long that's going to be, but I think we're at the stage of the project that having as many design professionals in on the comments and guidance we provide to the applicant is probably best at this point to avoid having to backtrack. I alerted the applicant to that, and they indicated at that point, I don't know if they're still here, that there was no objection. Do any of my fellow commissioners object to shuffling the agenda as I've described?
I'm okay with shuffling, but again, I have a hard stop at 6, so we can't dilly-dally around if we're starting at 5.
We are going to move this as fast as we can. Is Kaufman okay with juggling the agenda the way I discussed?
We are. Thank you, Commissioner Decker.
Thank you. Anyone else? It shall be done. Okay, what next? Public forum. Have we one?
Not today.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting? Strike that. Do we have a motion to enter the staff approvals into the record?
So moved.
Moriarty so moves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Hissam seconds. Any discussion? Let's see. It's Siwo. Siwo, yes. Moriarty.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes. It shall be done. And I have an echo now. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting of March 10th?
So moved.
Siwo moves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Hissam seconds. Discussion. Hearing none. Moriarty.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes, they are approved. All right. Applications. We have continued application 755 Denison Avenue. What do we have, Kim?
This is the conceptual review to install 18 solar panels on the flat roof of a primary garage. Commissioners wanted to know how far off the roof the proposed panels would be.
Stop. We have crosstalk going on. I can hear someone discussing something with someone else. So some of our spectators need to mute themselves. I just heard one of them talking over me.
I think we've got them muted at this time.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kim.
All right. So commissioners also wanted to know if the solar panels were low enough. There were favorable comment made about them at the business meeting. Per the applicant, the parapet lip at the east end of the garage is 13 inches, and the roof slopes down towards the alley, so the panels will not be visible when looking at the garage fireplace from Dennison or from their backyard. The maximum height of the panels is 10 inches. Since this is conceptual, commissioners should offer feedback, so the applicant can use that at a future meeting. The basis for the recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, specifically 2, 5, and 9. And Commissioner Decker, I will get it back to you so we can swear in our applicant.
Who's here for the applicant? Anyone? Well, it's hard to give feedback without anyone from an applicant. I'm going to give them a second in case you muted them and they have to figure out how to get unmuted. Who is Kim, do you know who the applicant representative is?
I have it on here as Jason Henry, and I'm not terribly familiar with everybody. So
Yeah, they got a big team working on this. Fellow commissioners, do you have anything to say about all this?
Nope.
I would think if they said 10 inches that this picture is of basically a flush application that's just, has some clearance between it and the roof. And the next picture shows a bunch of them tilted like that. I would assume this is the former, but I don't know. You, Kim?
I do not.
In any event, if there's any place that's fitting for a solar panel application, it's a flat garage roof. Wouldn't you agree, Commissioner Hissom?
Yes.
Especially one with a parapet on 3 sides. So anything else, folks? All right. There's feedback you can share with the applicant if they should appear at some point.
Thank you.
Next.
All right. The next application is VB-21-03-012. This is for 90 West Greenwood, another conceptual application to demolish an existing rear garage and construct a single-family home and 2 carriage houses. Commissioners requested additional photographs up and down the alley to get a sense of the surrounding area. The applicant should also submit documentation if the existing garage is historic or not. HPO staff will be checking the Sanborn maps and including that as part of the staff report, but I did note any additional information would be helpful. The overall height of the overall building height needs to be lowered to better fit in existing homes, and the existing garage was constructed in 1983 per the county auditor. Since this is conceptual, again, offer feedback, so our applicant can use the
All right,
feedback.
who is here? I'm sorry, Kim. Does the applicant have a representative present? Hello. Calling the applicant.
All right, this should be Carrick. And I'm not seeing him on.
My sense is that this may be more than 1 or 2 comments. Do we want to just bump this and see if someone shows?
We
Yep.
can do that.
Okay, let's just push that back in the agenda and see if somebody shows up. All right, next
All right, so we're skipping, or no, we are hitting.
we have
next.
number 3.
Yes, so this is 1055 Highland Street. The application is to remove windows from the rear west elevation, enlarge the window opening, and install 3 Geldwin sightline wood double hung windows and paint the windows to match existing. Comments from the unapproved March 10th, 2021 meeting minutes are included. The windows were replaced in 1999 as COA was included with the previous review. The 1922 to 1951 Sanborn shows the original floor plan of the house. Through looking at the historical aerials, the website is provided. The addition appears to have been completed by approximately 1953, though the 1971 aerial shows the footprint of the house much more clearly. Given the historic maps, the addition is considered historic in its own right, and the commission needs to determine if the area is a contributing architectural feature before deciding if the proposed alteration is appropriate. HBO staff does find the rear addition historic and contributing architectural feature in its own right. The recommendation is for approving this application with the clarification that the existing window configuration is kept and that the windows can be replaced. Basis for recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, and the Victorian Village guidelines regarding the windows and doors.
You were breaking up. Is it your recommendation that the existing configuration be kept everywhere or on the second floor? In other words, is this 3-gang okay with the city?
The city would prefer if the current configuration is kept as it is, so both the first and second floors.
Okay, got it. Applicant. Do
Yeah,
we have
Kyle.
an applicant representative here?
Yes, Kyle Green.
Kyle Green, Mr. Green, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have you anything to add?
No, I mean, most of you have commented on it last time. Basically, this is part of a interior renovation of the kitchen. To add that originally, and I think this was brought up, originally a rear porch on the right side of this rear elevation, and it had been since infilled many years ago, and that's sort of creating this large wall without the window on the bottom right side. I would say that the windows are not historic, and the reason we're replacing the one window, is in order to enlarge it as to get more light into the kitchen on the first floor. There's many examples along this block of 3-gang windows, talking about sort of the historic nature. We are taking the difference from last meeting is we are spacing the windows out to mimic the same trim that was there's a double window on the front of this house, and so we are spacing it out to mimic that same pattern with the spacer of trim in between each window. This I know this probably doesn't matter much, but the rear facade it's not visible from either street or the alley because there's a large carriage house back there. So he really just wants to engage the yard and bring in something along this first floor that really doesn't exist now because we just have this one little window. So yeah, I'll take any questions, comments.
Very good discussion.
It's kind of odd. Why wouldn't you just add an additional window under that second one so it was just a 4 square?
So that's sort of where that original inset porch was, and I don't have a permit number or date of when that was done prior to 1990, but there's a room there actually. So We're actually moving another item that we changed from last time is we shifted the window over to be in the center of that facade to create, not to throw this this rear elevation off balance. We wanted the window to be in the center. We moved it over as far as we could. But yeah, there's a I believe it's a small like closet and laundry room that's actually there. So really our only option is sort of that area that's boxed out there.
Yeah, because it's kind of odd. You would see 3 ganged windows like that on the side, not sort of on a rear facade. I'm okay with it. I just think it's odd.
And
I don't see a good solution here. You know, we're picking among the a number of evils. And
I have a
I
question.
think spacing these out does improve it somewhat, even though it's sort of a frou-frou detail for the back of a really plain addition like this, which is what I think Jeff was getting at. I'm sorry, Aaron, did I talk over you? I did. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I thought you were done. My question is, has anything changed on this application since we saw it last? Because I think we were discussing, you know, emulating either the larger bay window from the front of the house or just seeing any other sort of alternative. Is this the same application that we saw last month?
no, the 2 changes that we made based on comments last month were we spaced the 3 windows out. Previously, they were basically a gang of 3 windows, and these are now spaced out with trim in between each one, and that's similar to the front window. On the front of the house has 2 windows, and it's spaced out with the same size trim. The actual detailing around the top of the window and bottom of the window is the same as the original windows up top here on the 2nd floor. And we also shifted. There was comment that previously we kept the same location of aligned on the left side with the window above, and there was comments that this would sort of throw the elevation off balance, a little too heavy on the left. So we were able to shift it over more towards the middle of the house to create a little more balance and not have that heavy weight on one side visual.
Okay. Can we zoom in on that detail of that window?
The 3 gang?
Yeah, please.
Is anyone concerned that it's not actually in the center also? You know, the 3 have been kind of moved over, but it doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, like I said, we moved over as far as we could. There's a wall there on the inside, so yeah, ideally,
I'm fine with that because you're never going to get.
It's very difficult to tell that.
But my big thing is when you look at that detail, proposed window and casing, the casing between on either side of the middle one would not be 2 pieces. It would be a single piece on each side.
Yeah, and that's how it is. That's how it would be. It would be to match the front, and the front has a little, basically a little cant to it. So you're just sort of seeing that line. It would be imperceivable in actual when it was built. I was just trying to mimic what was there on the front, but yeah, no, it would be basically flush there. You're right.
Yeah, I think you're probably better off with a flat board rather than adding a detail, because generally these houses get plainer front to back.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the idea, is to match these 2 windows on the top as well, so that those are the windows that you're seeing all together at once, and it's important that all matches and same material.
If this had been an original detail, you would have needed that space between the windows for window weights.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it is what it is. All right, is this for approval, Kim?
Yes, it is.
Do we have any serious objections to the project as submitted, commissioners?
Nope.
Have I a motion to approve as submitted?
Motion to approve.
Siwo, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Hissom. Further discussion? Hearing none. Moriarty,
Yes.
Siwo,
Yay.
Hissom,
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes. Very
Thank you,
well.
Tim.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next.
All right.
Tim-
Number
Number
5 is 95 West 5th Avenue. This application is to remove 2 existing signs and install a 10-foot wide by 3-foot 10-inch high sign on the west elevation. The sign is to have external LED lights and changeable copy, and install a 3-foot 9-inch square sign on the north elevation. The commissioners requested to know the size of the existing signs. The applicant sent over photos with the existing dimensions. One sign is the 4 feet high by 6 feet wide, and the other is 5 foot square. The smallest sign is being replaced with a sign that's smaller than the current existing one. That should hopefully no longer cover up that window lintel. Staff recommends approving the application with the condition that the signs are not installed to the brick, rather into the mortar or the existing holes from the previous sign. Basis for recommendation is the Short North Design Guidelines for signage and City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, specifically 2, 5, and 9. Commissioner Decker, back to you.
A quick question, Kim, before we get to the applicant. Is the sign on the side of the church within guidelines size-wise?
I'm considering both of these wall signs, so that would be 25 square feet maximum, which I believe we.
This is 10 by almost 4, so that's
Yeah, hold on.
40. That's a little big.
Yes.
Okay, we just need to know that. Do we have someone from the applicant here?
Yes, I'm here.
Name, please.
It's Oliver.
I'm sorry.
Oliver
Repeat that,
Holtzberry.
please. You broke up.
Oliver Holtzberry.
Mr. Holtzberry, do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Very well. Do you have anything to add?
No, I do not. That sign is a little over 25 square feet. We just felt like it fit in that area well. That brick column between the door and the changeable copy itself, we wanted to make it so it was visible enough to be read from a little ways down the street. So that allows them to give 5 lines of 6-inch changeable copy, so it can still be read from the street. But other than that, they're pretty straightforward. So that's really all I have.
Very well. Discussion. This is in an area where it's on 5th and not High Street. So we're not dealing with a lot of sign competition, which is the main rationale for the square footage limitation on a sign. And we are just essentially putting a slightly smaller changeable copy sign in there like for like with a LED lit sign beside it. So I don't know. I'm not that upset by the fact that it's over size on the side of the church.
I would agree.
What think the rest of you?
I second that.
I'm fine with that.
Is the church going to have witty sayings like the prior occupant of the building did on the in the changeable copy?
If it helps us gain approval, I'm sure they will.
Very well. Okay, you bought my vote. Are we ready?
That could be the first
Or do we have a
message.
motion to approve?
So moved.
Moriarty moves. Second.
Second.
Hissam seconds. Further discussion. Hearing none. Moriarty.
Yes.
Siwo.
Yay.
Hissam.
Yay.
Decker. Yes. Motion's approved. Very well. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to circle back to number 2 because Carrick is here.
All right.
So just give me a second as I get back to my place here. Okay, so this application is for 90 West Greenwood Avenue. This is a conceptual review to demolish the existing rear garage and construct the single-family home into carriage houses. Since I already read the staff report, I'm not going to belabor this again. So Jack, go ahead and swear Carrick in.
I'm sorry. Who is our applicant? Please speak so you show up on the. Sir?
I'm Carrick Sherrill.
Mr. Sherrill, do you swear?
Your longtime friend.
Yes. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very well. You haven't heard the staff report. Is there anything that's not apparent from the materials that we need to know?
I don't believe that there is. You know, this is a conceptual review of the structure as well as the carriage houses. You know, just for us to get our feet wet and get started on the conversation. But the materials are generally, you know, brick for the Greenwood facing structure. You know, the first 2/3 are a traditional brick form. The rear is attempting to replicate a, you know, fiber cement or wood paneled addition. And then the carriage houses are fiber cement lap siding with fiber cement trims.
All right. Comments?
I think the addition is okay. I think the carriage houses are big, but I think it needs some work. I think that the rear elevation is definitely wanting in articulation.
I have an immediate question before we get any further that I meant to ask, which is, does anyone believe there is any serious obstacle to demolishing the garage? Erin shakes her head no. Jeff, you don't see a contributing structure here, do you?
Could I see it one more time?
I think it was built in 83 was the.
Yeah. No, I'm okay with that.
Thomas, you okay? Garage gone?
I'm fine.
All right. Okay. So Jeff, you were saying about the lack of something?
So go back to the carriage house. So are there 2 carriage houses?
There
are two carriage houses. There's
Side by side.
a broader one. Yeah, there's a broader one that is behind the existing duplex, and then there's a narrower one that is behind the proposed new single-family home.
Okay, so can I see the whole site map? So, okay, now let's go back to the 2 carriage houses. So that one is exactly what I said. I think the back needs some articulation. I don't think it's fitting with what it's being paired up against. And then let me see the second carriage house. So the second carriage house, I could see that window piece facing the garden, but I don't see that window, that big gable window facade facing an alley.
I'm going to jump in here, having just toured the alley a couple hours ago. If you look at the pictures of the alleyscape, it's either surface parking lots or single-story garages. These are the only two-story structures in the entire alley. So I think when we look at a carriage house that's bigger than everything around it, our first cheat is to have a lowered roof and use dormers. And you've done that on the larger carriage house, but the roof isn't very low. The edge of the roof perhaps could be a lot lower, and that would make the apparent height of that structure lower than it is now. And the second garage appears to be even, I don't know about the actual height, but the apparent height seems even taller. And I think you need to at least think about finding ways to design both of these so that the height comes down. And if you do that, you'll probably add
Sure, we can
dormers
look at
to the backside of the bigger garage that's displayed here, which would take care of some of Jeff's concern with lack of articulation. So that's just a thought. And the other thing I notice is there are a lot of trees on the vacant lot, including some pine trees that are kind of scraggly, and then a couple mature hardwoods. I don't know what they are, fruit trees. We would require a landscape plan to replace those if you're going to bulldoze that lot. Anybody else? Jeff, did you violently disagree with anything I said?
Nope, I agree.
Thoughts about the articulation of the new structure in the front?
Silence
most
for
of this
me is
conversation
usually a good sign. I
No,
think
I think the front. I think the front structure is fine.
it's very handsome, and I
Okay,
like
great.
the idea that you took some of the vocabulary from the one next door without making it too similar,
The
which
only,
was a real risk you run, putting putting two similar buildings side by side.
the only thing that I have problems with is the third floor deck.
Oh yeah.
That's my only sticking point.
I think you may find me again agreeing with Commissioner Hissam on that issue.
Mark that down.
Doesn't happen often. Well,
Is there
anybody
any-
else?
so-
Anybody else want to weigh in on any of these issues?
So as Jack uses language, I'm hearing a violent opposition to the third floor terrace. Is there any way to make that smaller, hide it a little bit more, or is it just a non-starter?
I think you could try to panelize it and make it look like the structure and have a fairly large or fairly articulated pediment, so it's not visible.
so no less railing and more parapet with a
I don't
with a
think you have,
heavy
I don't think you'll
eave.
get, I don't think you can get away with railing at all up there.
Right. Okay.
The first thing that came into my mind is to pull it back and have just kind of a step out from your dormer there, which isn't an unseen feature in the neighborhood. But I think what Commissioner Hissom suggests might possibly work also.
Okay. No, I appreciate that feedback.
Yep.
Anyone else?
I think I could use some more information on the windows on this new portion. On the main house, there seems to be, I can't tell if they look like they're not going to be double hung windows, at least on the rear portion, just underneath the third floor porch. And then in that middle section, I can't tell if that's trim or windows with the sort of horizontal 5 rectangles there. So
that would be trim in the midsection. The windows in the addition would have maybe liked to have been casement, but we won't die on that hill, except for maybe the windows that are on the west elevation in the back portion that would be associated with the kitchen area. Those might be more functional as casement. Is there a violent reaction to casement windows?
I'm sorry I brought up the word violent. I apologize. We normally we are peace loving here at the Victorian Village Commission.
I agree with Aaron's call. I think they should be double hung, and then those ones on the east elevation, those could be the first floor one. Well, there aren't any windows on the first floor, so I think it should be. I think they need to be double hung all the way around. Then.
Ditto.
Okay.
You might look at making them a little narrower so that they're more Victorian in their ratio of height to width.
Sure.
But it looks like you may have just drawn them to fill in. I don't know. Well, I'm not an architect. I don't know what you did. But those are small details. I think you're barking up the right tree generally with the new build.
Okay, great.
If we're nipping around these kind of details, we must like it generally.
I would agree.
Good.
All right. Anything else?
Good.
I
think that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Siwo, Commissioner Moriarty, anything further?
Maybe just one last comment with regard to the site plan. Is there any heartburn about the location of the broader carriage house?
Yeah, why are you doing that? Street parking?
We're trying to park. Well, we're trying to park the site. There's the front building is a duplex, and the rear building would have a unit. So if the apron provides 2 spaces for each of those dwelling units.
So I would ask Eric, how are you going to be treating that then?
The apron?
Yes.
Planning staff has been beating us over the head with ribbon driveways lately. So I would imagine that we'd probably approach that apron in some kind of a method like that with, kind of tracks to the doors and either drivable plantings or permeable pavers in the non-track areas.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're going to be looking at those details then.
Sure. Yep. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, again, this is a concept. We'll come back.
Cool.
Very
I
well.
appreciate your feedback and sorry for my tardiness.
There we go.
Don't let
You
it
got
happen
plenty
again.
to do. Next. Thank you. Have a good day. Kim,
All right.
next one.
We hop over to number 6, and commissioners and applicants, please be mindful of time. We want to be able to hear everybody tonight, hopefully. So this is for 140 Buttles Avenue. The proposed work includes the sidewalk, replacing the concrete city sidewalk on the west side of the property, and to repair, replace the stone curbs in kind. Also includes the retaining wall, which would be 12 inches thick, with a maximum of 26 inches high from the stairs to the corner of the house, and to remove the existing retaining wall and build a new 12-inch thick and maximum of 24 inches high retaining wall. The walls are to be the Rosetta dimensional wall with the 12.5-inch coping in the Scioto color. They're also proposing to remove the lattice fence and install a new 6-foot tall dog-eared fence in the footprint of the existing. Landscaping would include removing the front walkway and replace it with a brick sidewalk in the herringbone pattern using the reclaimed original bricks from the site, and removing and replacing the concrete pad and steps in the backyard. Remove the 2 trees in the backyard. Plant 2 large trees in the backyard to replace the existing trees being removed, and to plant 1 ornamental tree in the front yard. During the business meeting, a commissioner noted that a similar fence had been approved across the street. The proposed retaining wall and fence would replace the existing. The fence would be more appropriate and similar to many in the neighborhood. The existing retaining wall has been damaged by the existing tree roots. Staff recommends approving the application with the condition that a retaining wall section be provided and at least 1 tree be planted in the backyard to restore some of that existing tree canopy. Basis for recommendation are the Victorian Village guidelines, fences, and yards. And Commissioner Decker, we'll give it back to you to swear in our applicant.
Thank you. Have we an applicant?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Who's that?
Stephen Mills.
Stephen Mills, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Is your video on?
It is not.
Can you turn it on?
Sure. Let me see if I can get it to open.
Well, while you're doing that, is there anything to add to what staff has mentioned, given the fact that we're trying to speed this up?
No.
Very
No,
well. Anybody have any issues with any of this? As I pointed out in the business meeting, Judge Brown across the alley, I guess he wasn't there when it happened, but his backyard fence is 6 feet sitting on a knee wall. So this would just duplicate that feature on a smaller knee wall across the alley. I don't see a problem with the fact that the overall height is more than 6 feet.
I'm fine with this.
Any other comments, folks?
Oh, this looks good. Looks like an improvement.
Huge improvement.
Thank you.
Have we a motion?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Second.
That's his motion by Moriarty, second by Hissom. Further discussion. Is this, I'm sorry, what condition did you want, Kim? Kim, did you want us to make it the approval conditional on something?
Yes, with a section of that retaining wall.
Does a section of the retaining wall be provided to staff prior to final approval?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, Kim, is your motion amended to reflect that condition?
It is, yes. Thank you.
Is the second also amended? Whoever seconded.
Yes.
You agree with the amendment of the motion?
Yes.
Very well. Further discussion. Hearing none. Moriarty.
Yes.
Siwo,
Yay.
Hissom,
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion approved. Very well. You're on your way. Mr.
Great.
Mills.
Thank you, staff.
Mr. Siwo is no doubt amused by my approximations of Robert's rules. All right, next.
All right, so just for the record, number 7 with the windows with the lead paint, that was withdrawn. So we move on to number 8, which is 11 to 27 West Star Avenue. This application includes removing existing non-historic age doors at all 9 entrances and to install new doors either replaced in kind or with the half-light 2-panel doors. These doors would all include a full glass storm door as well. All new doors to be the deep blue color and have clear glass except one entry where an owner is requesting a decorative obscured glass. The obscured glass does not meet the Victorian Village guidelines. The door hardware is to be the Schlaget grip handle with a deadbolt in the black finish. And they're also including to open up the side lights and transoms at all 9 entrances and install clear glass. The transoms would be that clear glass mounted in a wood frame, and the side light glass would be clear with the panel surrounding the smooth-faced fiberglass. Also included is the removal of lights and installation of the new light fixtures adjacent to the newly open side lights. The new fixture select. God, I can't talk. The new light fixture selection, but not location, was previously approved. Commissioners at the business meeting wanted to know the placement of the proposed lights, since those would no longer be able to be included right next to the door as they currently are. Commissioners do need to decide if the variation in the doors is allowed. HPO staff does not find the existing door appropriate and advises using another variation from the Victorian Village guidelines. If not, all doors need to match. Per HPO, all front doors should be wood. Staff recommends the approval of the application with the condition that the doors from the Victorian Village guidelines are used. The location of the light is provided as a scaled measured drawing, and the light should be installed into the mortar and not the face of the brick. And the basis for the recommendation are the Victorian Village guidelines for windows and doors and City Code 3116.11, the standards for alterations, specifically 2, 5, and 6. Commissioner Decker, go ahead and swear in our applicant.
Who's here for the applicant?
Hello,
Hello, is your name, would it state your name, please?
Dave Corzine.
Mr. Corzine, do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Raise your hand and say I do.
I do.
Very well. Anything to add?
No, you guys summarized it very well.
Okay, commissioners, what say you?
Can I see a picture of the facade? Can I see a picture of the front facade?
This is that row apartment around the corner on Star.
So I think what's really weird is I don't think those ever had side lights.
What was there?
I think that was just a, I think that was something that when they tried to renovate those, it was sort of an added detail. Do we have an old staff? Do we have an old picture of that building?
Not included in the materials. I don't believe I looked in the file for this one.
Because that would be a good starting point to see what it used to look like.
I find it difficult to believe that anyone enlarged those bricks openings, all 8 of them or however many there are.
Oh, you'd be surprised, Jack. I mean, this is a typical build, and you never see that. You show me one in the village or an Italian village. I've never seen it.
Well, the first question is, does anyone think that replacing these with in kind with scalloped windows across the top is appropriate?
No.
I assume that the rest of us agree with Commissioner Hissom. So we're down to option 2 or something else. The other thing I just noticed is, you know, each of these glass openings, if we go to option 2, has a frame around it, except for the skylight, which is this enormous sheet of glass.
So I would propose that basically go back to the elevation. The picture of the elevation, I'm sorry.
There are a bunch
So,
of them. Back up one.
no, back up one. I don't think I could see a replacement of a door with a half light. I think that there's not enough room for a transom over that to be fitted in any way, shape, or form. It would just be bizarre, as well as the side light. What they're showing the dimensions of the side lights to look like a regular side light, and you do not have that, the dimension to do it. So I would propose a typical half light with a storm door and change the fixture out.
I've been out to the property.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have been out to the property, and we have done measurements. You can accommodate a side light and a transom. Now, you did make mention of the large glass in the transom and then lesser in the side light. Something we could do. So the transom is a direct set glass, so with no framing around it. We could match that in the side light and do a direct set glass in the side light to match the transom.
So
wait, Jeff. Let me just follow up with one question. Could you put a frame around the glass and the transom to make all 3 of them match? Or would you have no room to do that?
That is not, that's not an option.
Okay.
So I think you can do anything you want to do if you want to do it. If you look at the number 27, that piece of glass is going to be no bigger than 5 or 6 inches, and I've never seen a transom that small.
That is not true. That transom is going to be at least 13 inches tall.
The drawing says it's going to be 13.938 inches tall.
I can't imagine you have 13 inches above that door. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it.
Well, I mean, you can see those, the numbers, or you just take and do it relative to the light fixture. That light fixture is at least 12 inches tall, and that's in that space above that's taller than the light fixture.
So if you count the bricks, there are only 4 bricks.
I count 6 from the sandstone down to the top of the brick mold.
Jeff, there's a little frame within that board over what would be the skylight, and you're looking at what's within the frame. Whereas the drawing for the skylight, it starts at the very top of the door and goes all the way to the that piece of stone over it, whatever it is.
I mean, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring light into these units. I would rather see fancier trim and have a centered door with the transom than trying to do this offset situation with a side light. It's just architecturally, it's not correct.
What of the other commissioners? Frankly, I'm okay with this except for the transom, which I think needs at least the kind of frame over on the left of what I see up on the screen.
Yep,
Something
I agree.
Mr. Siwo, could you approve option 2 as submitted with a transom that looks like the one over the left-hand door in what we see here, along with the other conditions the city has mentioned?
Yes.
All right. I think maybe we have a 3-to-1 non-consensus here. Do we have a motion to approve subject to the city's condition? And, well, if anybody can repeat what I just floated out there or change it. Do we have a motion? Anyone? It would be a motion to approve as submitted with the second option, that is with the half-light door, with a transom with some sort of narrow border. And Kim, what did you want?
The scaled measured drawing for the location of that light, and that the light be installed into the mortar and not the face of the brick.
Does anyone so move?
So moved. Siwo.
That's motion Siwo. Anyone second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, Moriarty?
Actually have further discussion. Are we going to request staff approval of a new drawing of that different transom window that you've suggested, Jack?
I don't know. Should we? Probably.
I was going to hold it for that, so yes.
There we go. You want to put that in your motion? Are you
Yes,
amending your motion?
I meant the motion to make it subject to staff approval of an updated drawing being submitted.
And Aaron, you consent to the amendment?
I do.
Very well. Further discussion? Hearing none. Moriarty?
Yes.
Siwo?
Yay.
Hisson?
No.
Decker, yes. Motion passes. Very good. There
Thank
you
you.
go. This will be a big improvement.
Thank you.
I hate those doors. I will be very happy to see them gone.
Agreed.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, next.
All right, this is number 9, so 1038 Neal Avenue, and we go back into conceptuals. So this is for the demolition of an existing non-historic shed, the construction of a new 2-car garage. The garage would have the James Hardy siding with a 4-inch exposure painted in the iron gray. Windows are to be the Geldwin sightline and doors are to be Ella. The garage door is to be 116-foot wide black door with, I believe the painted trim windows and shingles are coming back as a separate application, but just so the commission has a heads up, that's also happening. Commissioners at the business meeting requested additional photographs up and down the alley to get a sense of the surrounding area. Additional photographs of the non-historic shed were also requested. HBO staff has gone ahead and revised the agenda to reflect that 4-inch reveal detail, the windows, and the proposed demolition of the non-historic shed at the business meeting that had not been included. So this just got an update to cover everything. Since this is conceptual, commission should offer feedback. Basis for the recommendation is City Code 3116.12, the standards for new construction, as well as 3116.14, the standards for demolition. And Commissioner Decker, I'll give this back to you so we can swear in our applicant.
All right, who is our applicant? Hello? Is anyone out there from the applicant?
This is Maro.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you. And I don't think your video is on, so your picture didn't pop up. Hello?
He is on here.
Hello.
Yes, do we have an applicant?
Here.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Morrow. Could you state your full name?
Mauro Segabinazzi.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Very well. Do you have anything to add to what staff has said and your application revealed?
Okay. No, I don't.
Very well. I guess the first, I'm going to kind of break this up again. Does anyone think this shed is a contributing historic structure that cannot be removed? Hearing no one, I would tend to agree that it is not an obstacle. Next, feedback on the proposed carriage house. Anyone?
It's not a carriage house.
I don't think we'd ever see I've never seen a facade like that.
That's one way to say it. I tend to agree with Commissioner Hissam that, well, first off, we have a double door. We ordinarily prefer single doors, but I personally inspected the alley, which is more like a meandering lane. It isn't even straight. And this is one of the narrowest clearances I've ever seen in the neighborhood between a proposed garage and the fence on the other side. So I think my own opinion, based on having walked the site, and it's semi backed up by the photos, is that we would allow a double door, right? If I am correct in describing what we have. So it seems to me, I would agree that with Commissioner Hissam, the real issue is the facade facing the house. And what is the purpose of having these folding glass bifold doors?
So I wanna have more access to the. So my patio is very small, and once we add the garage, we will basically have no patio. It will be, I think, it's about like 8 feet between the house and the garage. And you can see on the first page of this document on the site plan. So I just want to create more opening and light to the garage, and like just giving a more interesting facade to that side of the garage, because all the windows from my house will be facing there. I don't want something that it's not like nice or just look like an average garage with like a main door and nothing else.
What are you going to use your second story for? Just storage?
There is no second story.
Right, it's just a vacant space. So this gable would just be flooding light into the garage, I would suppose.
Yes.
And the garage is to be used for storage of automobiles.
Yes.
So I guess no one's going to speak up. So we're beating around the bush here. I think that what you're trying to do is acceptable. I think the vocabulary you're trying to use on this garage facade is not acceptable. So I could see a couple of dormers that would bring light into a second story. And I could also see, you know, maybe several windows with a man door that would bring in light also, but would be more in line with a more traditional architecture, not so modern, I would say.
Vocabulary, I think, was an apt word.
Right.
You need to draw from the palette of elements that you would ordinarily see in our neighborhood. Did I interrupt, Thomas?
Nope. Hissam, I couldn't have stated it better. I agree with both what you and Jack are saying.
Aaron?
Yep, I was just trying to find a front elevation of the house, and I think I found it on Google Earth, and I agree that this architecture does not seem to fit well with the current existing conditions. But otherwise, I would support a garage and the demolition of the shed.
Any other feedback? Hearing none, this is a conceptual, and you've got your feedback, which is you've got off to a good start, but you need to redesign the part facing your house.
What will be do you have a suggestion? Like, can I remove the windows above the door? I just want to have this, or I don't know, any other suggestion?
So I could see instead of that peak, it looks like like a summer lodge or something like that. I could see a shed dormer across that had large transom windows. And then under that, I could see something that would sort of look like a large carriage house door, but have it be glazed, which would probably bring in just as much light as you have proposed there. Does that make sense?
Or you could put a pair of dormers, but you could have traditional looking dormers up there that let the light in a variety of configurations. And there are all kinds of doors you can look at too. I don't know that they need to be fully transparent, but there are many kinds of doors you could put there that were not top to bottom glass that would do the trick for you.
So,
right.
so the issue is not the opening, is more like the door has no treatment where the glass is installed. Is that correct?
No,
Well, I think it's a combination of it. Yeah, it's that almost that whole side that's facing the house.
And also that side is not visible to anybody.
Doesn't matter.
Itself.
Doesn't matter. We can't commit to a particular size opening without seeing how it's treated. But you've got some ideas. Come back with some alternatives. I think you've got some idea of how we're approaching this, but we can't sit here and design it for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Very well. Next, please. Let's have an attendance check. We haven't had any commissioners check in yet.
I have not had anybody message me that they are here.
Let's take one more and see if at least we can get Sean.
Sounds good. So we will get on to number 10, which is 615 North High Street. And Jack, I just want to remind you, we do have a speaker. So I'll go with the staff report. We'll let our applicant go, and then we'll go to the speaker before going to the commissioners.
Very well.
That's more
Is
so.
this conceptual too?
Yes.
Very well.
All right.
Staff
This
report
is for the modification of the recessed storefront entryway, removing the mosaic tile detail on the floor of the entry and replacing the awning fabric with the Marcellas to be displayed on the awning to match the adjacent awnings exactly. The applicant is modifying the storefront as the interior space is changing. Typically, interior changes should not dictate the exterior modifications. This modification would eliminate an existing storefront and change the rhythm along North High Street. Per City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration that notes, while contemporary design should not be discouraged, alteration should not destroy significant historical, architectural, or cultural materials. Again, this is conceptual, so commissioners should offer feedback, and the basis for the recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, specifically 2, 3, 5, 6, and 9. And Commissioner Decker, let's get our applicant sworn in.
Just so I understand you, you're saying this is not appropriate.
Correct.
Very well. Who's here from the applicant?
Hi, my name's Carter Bean.
Mr. Bean, do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. And also on with me today is Wayne Schick from Cameron Mitchell Restaurants.
Mr. Schick, do you likewise swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very well. What have you to add to what staff has said?
Sure. You know, there are multiple storefronts across the face of this building, and those with the recesses designate entrance, while those without the recesses are additional space contiguous to those entrances. And as you can see in the plan, maybe back up one page there, Kim. What we're proposing is taking the space adjacent to and contiguous to us and expanding our dining. On the left, you can see the existing condition plans of the restaurant with the red area representing the area that we're expanding into. And on the right is a sketch of how we would propose expanding the dining. And, you know, the plan that we would like to pull off, of course, has banquette seating that wraps across that storefront. And we really don't want people coming and going straight into that dining space. So we're not wanting to promote the fact that this is yet another entrance to another space or a second entrance to our space. So by flushing that out and carrying the same detail across, it pays more specific accent to our entrance, which is, you know, and by flushing that out, it's consistent with the bay that's to the right of our entrance, and it's also consistent with the bay that is at the far south end of the building that you can see on the far left of the plan A there.
All right, folks, feedback.
I have some feedback. I think.
Wait,
that,
speaker.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, speaker. Mr. Conti, thank you. These meetings ran a lot more smoothly when you ran them. Yes, sir. What have you to say?
So my name is Mark Conti, resident of Victorian Village. I was on the commission when this building was rehabbed all those many years ago into what we see today. And we put a lot of thought and effort into trying to get those storefronts looking as good as they do. And while I understand all of the applicants' concerns, it does ruin the symmetry that we have on that building. And even though the restoration is relatively recent in the scheme of things, as we look at things in Victorian Village, the fact that there is a storefront there with a door still does tell the story of that building, even going back before the restoration. And then finally, I would say if there's a way to prevent the restaurant expanding, with all due respect to the restaurant, which I love and I go to a lot and hate when it's packed and I can't get a seat. If there's a way to keep that retail instead of restaurant, I encourage the commission to do so. Though I doubt that's possible anymore. I think the recent parking changes from a few years ago means there's probably no need for any type of zoning variance. But if that's a possibility, that would be great too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Didn't mean to cut you off. And I think my only comment is that Mark has pointed out something real important, which is if you do look at the first page of the submittal, this is part of a symmetrical storefront. that runs the length of the building. But I've talked a lot. Somebody else have some comments.
Okay, my comments were going to be that I would prefer to see, if we're removing a door, that the new proposed window bay match the other window bay on the right-hand side, which has 4 windows versus the 3. I'm not sure if they're the exact same measurements, but in my mind, that would be a better cadence to the building frontage.
You know, the windows on the right are actually operable so that that whole panel can open up. Wayne, would you be receptive to that solution?
We could study whether those windows could be operable like they are on the right side. Yes, we could.
I don't know that they need to be operable, as long as isn't your point, Aaron, that they should be 4-panel?
Yes, but I do appreciate the operable windows also, as someone that visits that restaurant.
Other feedback?
No, I agree with Aaron regarding the symmetry between those 2 windows. I otherwise don't have an issue here. I think actually it makes sense. I know that space has been vacant for what is now 2 years, and definitely understand the comments that Mr. Conti has mentioned here.
I'm gonna go along with Mark and the city on this one, at least in terms of initial comments, because you're really only interfering with a very small portion of the seating area of the restaurant. If you leave that bay intact, you can keep the door closed and locked with a sign saying not an entrance, go that way. And if you do those 2 things, you have still preserved, Mark, jog my memory, I think I was also on the commission when we went through the resurrection of the storefront, this series of fronts, and the building as a whole is going to look a lot different. You know, it's one thing to say Marcella's has symmetry, but this is a building that has 5 bays, not 3.
Yeah. Do we have a picture of the whole facade?
There's no picture, but you do have an idea of it from the overhead in page 1 of the app.
Yeah, well, that doesn't help me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's the name of that building?
The Yukon building.
That's the Yukon. Remember the brouhaha over the Yukon when we started with that project, Jeff?
I do, but
It's the same building as Warby Parker, UPS. I'm just looking on Google Earth right now. It has a very clear picture of the facade.
I'm doing the same.
In any event, so we appear to have a divided commission with 4 of the 6 or perhaps 7 commissioners present.
so I guess there's 2 parts that I want to add. One is you know, I'm okay with those facades being articulated because you can always go back to where you were from the get-go. I'm more sensitive to what Mark was saying is the minute we lose that slot of space for an individual store, it's never going back. So the facade can be brought back. I'm not so sure the cost to open it up and close it will ever come about. So that's my only concern.
All right. You've got your feedback. I don't know how coherent it is, but sometimes we are not all of the same opinion.
It is positive, we think. So we will put together a full package and submit for an upcoming meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Do we have Mr. Conyers with us yet? Okay, we're going to go one more, and then we're going to move to Kaufman no matter what. How's that?
Sounds good. All right.
And actually, this is two related ones. Let's just take them both at once. Same applicant.
Alrighty, I'll read and abbreviate both staff reports then.
Good.
All right, so numbers 11 and 12, which we will be discussing together, is 789 North High Street and 793 North High Street. These are adjacent to each other and proposing similar projects. So for the 789, this is to install the aluminum railing to surround a 15-foot 10-inch by 8-foot 5-inch space to allow sidewalk dining, and enclosed space would allow for 4 tables. And then 793 North High Street is for the installation of the aluminum railing to surround a 32-foot 3-inch by 8-foot 5-inch space to allow sidewalk dining. This would allow for 6 tables. For commissioners at the business meeting, they noted that this is an iconic building around High Street, which harkens back to the character of an era in the 1920s string of auto dealerships and repair facilities. Commissioners noted that the proposed dining area would obscure the front of the building and posed the question, to what extent does the view of the building need to be kept clear? The bus stop to the left was noted, as well as an existing garbage can. The area can quickly become congested with everything that's going on there. And then another comment was that the proposed fence design needed to be the same as the one next door, should it be approved. Commissioners did request that the drawings be updated to include an existing manhole cover at 793 North High Street. Also requested was that the railing should be temporarily so that it could be moved in that location to provide access. Since this is conceptual, the commissioners should offer design feedback. Basis for the recommendation is City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration, specifically 2, 3, 5, 6, 9. And Commissioner Decker, I will give it back to you so we can swear in our applicant.
Where is our applicant and who is our applicant? Applicant? Mr. Resident, Mr. Applicant. I always am excited when I get mail addressed to Mr. or Mrs. Occupant. Where is our applicant? If we have no applicant, let's just move right along to, we can come back to this if we have time. Why don't we move right along at 5:30? And if we don't have our other commissioners here, we can't wait for them any longer. So do you want to call the Kaufman project?
Alrighty, I can just let me hop over here. All right, so the Kaufman project, which is at 23 West 2nd Avenue. Please note, commissioners, we do have 2 speakers for this application. This is a request for action for new construction to construct a new 7-story mixed-use building and 7 2-story townhouses along Price Avenue, as well as for the building massing, the location and size of the exterior wall materials, location and size of exterior recesses in the wall sections, the roof terrace size, location, and parapet heights, building connection to the existing IBEW building, the standing seam roof and edge flashing, composite metal panel, installation details, as well as the brick and dissimilar material transition joints and details, The windows and doors would include aluminum storefront system. The Cournier black and unit and common windows would be the Marvin fiberglass essential line. Patio doors and entry doors would be Marvin fiberglass patio doors and Pella fiberglass entry doors. This project was conceptually reviewed at the August 2020 hearing and was continued at the February 2021 hearing. Commissioners determined that the applicant should split their remaining segments to allow for a more thorough review. A subcommittee of Commissioners Hissam, Conyers, and Sullivan organized this portion of the project review. Commissioners requested more information regarding the exterior panels. Commissioner Decker and Conyers visited the office to see the materials and wanted to know how durable the larger portion of the materials would be. Their concern was if the materials could withstand a very bad windstorm. The applicant did get back to let me know that the panels are attached to a hat channel system, which is attached to a sheathing substrate. The next spacing of that hat channel is no more than the 24 inches, which provides support for the panels, and therefore bowing should not be an issue. The panel itself is a 1/4 inch thick, and the system in its entirety is 1 inch and is bonded to a rigid core. This keeps the rigidity of the materials. Additionally, the project has been tested for the 60 PSF wind speeds, in which a 50-year storm event, which is extremely rare to occur. Additionally, the product has been loaded up to 90 PSF in order to safely establish the 60 PSF upper canopy, which shows the durability if a very bad windstorm would hit. Information on the hat channel spacing, wind testing, and flexible rigidity, and a sample warranty has been included with the submission to show the integrity of the project. Commissioners at the business meeting also suggested comparing the sample to other successful installation. It's hard to judge the reflective value. They did note Moxie, which is also located on North High Street, does a good job of blending into the sky. Specific pages were called out as a commissioner requested clarification on which panel joint system is used and if in multiple defined location, as well as clarification on pages 208 to 212 and 214. Where is the metal panel used in a soffit? The applicant clarified that regarding the first clarification, the H reveal joint is being used at all vertical and horizontal location. Details have been submitted to clarify. Regarding the second set of pages, the metal panel is not used at a soffit condition. Details and images have been previously submitted, which show the panel joist at the underside of the Trex deck clad balcony condition. The applicant submitted additional photos, cut product sheets, and video in correspondence with commissioner comments and questions at the business meeting, which I did email out to everyone. Staff recommends approval of the application for the building massing, exterior siding, and windows and doors with the condition that a sun study is submission, which has been a request from some of our residents who have spoken up about this project. Basis for the recommendation is City Code 3116.12, the standards for new construction. And as Jacqueline is sharing, I know we had a request from our applicant to share as some of the material was kind of shuffled around. So I believe, Priya, if you'd let us know whenever you'd like to take over sharing, we will hand the driver's seat over to you.
Yeah, I'm ready at
I'm just going to suggest before we go too far, I mean, we kind of focused in on a very few issues last time after we went through a bunch of stuff. And I don't think we need to cover the earth here. I think we can have a relatively limited initial presentation, and then you can get anything out you need to in response to commissioner comments. Go ahead. Now that I've messed you up, go ahead and present.
We need to swear in our applicants, and then we also have the speakers.
Yeah, I know. We've got speakers to get through too. Go ahead.
Okay, so can I go ahead and share my
You
screen?
can do whatever you want. I just sort of get. Go ahead.
You need to be sworn in, right?
Oh, right. Ms. Iyer, do you swear, all of you, Jessica, Ms. Iyer, everyone else here for the applicant, do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very well. Now proceed.
Okay, I'll start really quickly before Priya digs in here. Want to be super careful of time, so I'm going to keep it short. Thank you. This submission does build off our March submission, and it thoroughly responds specifically to commissioner comments. It also follows the city council approval of height and variances that happened on March 22nd. So that's happened since our last meeting. I don't want to go into too much detail now. I want to be really safe about time on what's included in the submission. But it's balcony soffits and underside details, the transition of the wall to the roof, lintel cast stone, specific information, photos and videos of the building material. Also, we had 2 open office hours, which I know some of you took advantage of, specifically Commissioners Conyers and Decker, clarification of the metal panel size on the facade and reflective index of the Omega Light panel. So we can go into detail on that, answer questions, want to make sure you have the opportunity to get any questions answered while we have the time. The one final comment is that since the March meeting, we've worked to incorporate brick again in our 3rd floor amenity terrace. So I know that was specifically a request of Commissioner Conyers, but I think it might have been something that was of interest to others. So that will be presented today as well. And we can walk through what that looks like and whatnot. But that is all I have. Frank, want to give you a second if there's anything you wanted to add.
You covered it. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I will hop here to a few specifics that I think were touched on last meeting. First, the materials. So Kaufman have a bit of an open house for the commission. View the various materials we're proposing on our product. The one item that I think we wanted to address was the Omega Light Bright Silver. We have in the past provided some imagery on projects. We've noted that the commission was very responsive and like the product was on Moxie. So we did provide, and I can pull up right here if you can see kind of a comparison between the 2 metal panel products here of the Omega Light and the smaller one being the product that's on the Moxie. I do want to note that the product that's on the Moxie has an SRI, a solar reflective index of 65, and our Omega Light product that we're proposing has a index of 65.84. So we essentially have the same reflectivity there. And we think that this is an extremely comparable product and think the fact that the Moxie mission was responsive to should show that this is a product that will follow in similar suit and kind of disappear into the sky or blend it into the sky as has previously been discussed. Just quickly talking about the system itself, staff noted that we're using a reveal H molding. This gives you a little bit of an idea on the profile. So showing you right here where my cursor is, this is the substrate of the building or the sheathing that's going to be on there. We'll have these hat channels that attach into the sheathing, and the Omega Light product will then attach into that with these reveals between all of the joints. These hat channels occur every 24 inches, so about 2 feet. And that is really the main reason we shouldn't have any issues with bowing that I know was a concern. They are spaced regularly enough that provides rigidity for our system. And as staff noted, we've provided a lot of testing detail on the wind load to the point where these are set to be loaded to a 50-year windstorm, which is extremely rare. And they've done proof loading that's even further a higher PSF than that. And then the one other item I did want to touch on, as I know we've talked about it before, is the balcony detail. So to show some diagrams I think we've provided before. We're going to have joists with a track deck system, and we have shown some images both from kind of above what this condition will look like, and we have some conditions where we show what it looks like below. It'll be a painted wood, and it'll blend into kind of whatever's happening in the surroundings. So it's something that really is only visible for someone that's on the balcony below, and we think that it blends in quite well and disappears. I will touch just really briefly on the one item that Jessica had mentioned about the brick that we have added back to level 3. Just in a quick, this is a concept rendering that we've since updated. And if we kind of zoom in here, we've come back to show that we're going to have a brick wall to kind of and create some privacy. And I know this is something that was a comment from the commission that we've chosen to directly address. So instead of a railing going all the way across, we've broken that up and have the brick brought back here. And we're really only having the railing directly in front of the pool activity. And of course, someone that's in the pool themselves are going to be sitting much lower. Anywhere we have elevated walking deck, we have this brick being shown.
Do you have a elevation of how those brick walls terminate as far in relation to the facade below?
I have, yes. Let me pull up I think a section probably will be the cleanest way to show that.
No. I'm saying if I have 3 townhomes, where do those walls above stop? Is it in the middle of a window? Is it the middle of a unit? How? That was my question.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Yeah, before we get too far into that, I think we need to conclude the presentation, get the speakers on.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem. Onward.
Okay, so I think that really is everything that, from a preliminary standpoint, that we have to share for the commission. We're happy to hear any comments and feedback, and I can move around the presentation to discuss further.
Very well. Kim, who are our speakers?
We have Lisa Wood and Kathy Reinhardt.
All right.
Lisa did get her speaker slip in first if we want to go in order.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Lisa did get her speaker slip in first if we want to go in order.
Well, we can do that. Lisa, where
Yes,
are
sir.
you?
Can you see me, hear me?
We can hear you. You haven't, there you go. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give us the truth, the whole truth, or nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Shoot, proceed.
Okay, same as usual, but you know that the size and mass is not appropriate for the neighborhood. I would like to invite the newer commissioners and Aaron, if you'd be interested to walk the property to get an idea of how far it goes in and how much it encroaches on the neighborhood and how inappropriate it is. So if anyone would like to come and walk through that with me at your convenience, I would be glad to do that. My other concern is the current conditions of the buildings. Both properties have gotten a notice from the city for code violations. So I don't think it's appropriate to give a certificate of appropriate to a property that's got code violations. I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Kathy Reinhardt?
I'm here.
Keep talking till you pop up on our.
I'm here. You got me?
We have you. Do you swear or
I can
affirm?
see me.
I can see you too. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Comment, please.
Okay, so I have never been against developing that property ever. listening to this entire meeting, there's so many comments on height and surrounding properties of new carriage houses being built and everything, and I don't understand why this is so different. I live in one of the 2 most historic homes in this entire neighborhood, and I'm going to be affected by this one way or another. And I don't think it's going to be good. I am very concerned about the view outside my back door. Obviously these concerns for me are very personal. I'm not here as my role of the VP of the Civic Association. But I am concerned about things like all of these variances to use up every single inch. And I'm worried about getting out of my garage. I'm worried about the fact that this commission has said so many things about much smaller projects that are not being said to these. I probably sound like a broken record, but it's going on, and it affects the connecting properties. And I'm also very concerned about what will happen when I end up selling this house. And I've got no comment on that. So those are my comments now, because I'm also very concerned about the construction process and everything else as well affecting us here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, discussion. What do we want to take first? The aluminum siding?
That works.
Jessica, you didn't have the Moxie data when I was there, did you?
I did not. I got that as a direct comment from you.
Got it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had my timeline right. I'm looking at page 3 of your submittal. And now that now we can see that we're basically putting up a bunch of 4x8 sheets on end of siding. And because of the way this material is mounted, which you explained so well with this sort of T-shaped or R-shaped mounting hardware, you have a relief line along each edge or each juncture of each panel, right?
Correct. We have a reveal.
And the relief line on the end is the same on the short side of the panel is the exactly the same as the relief line on the long side of the panel.
The reveal, correct.
So we get the effect no longer of some extruded shape kind of rising out of the brick into the sky, but rather a series of brick-like things set on end somehow. And I'm not sure, at least for this commissioner, that works, because we've taken a neat idea, which is to have this aluminum structure, and in the execution, we've messed up the cleanness of it by having this particular supplier require this particular system to hold the panels down. So that's, and also looking at this, I'm not sure how you decided, how to align these panels with each other. It appears to be almost random the way, where each panel, where each horizontal line is. So that's also kind of a concern. But the main one is that your the cleanness of this is compromised by your mounting system and your product?
So if
I'm
I
going to
can,
throw that out there and see if anybody agrees with me.
I think actually it will go away, Jack, and I think it talks about the construction process.
yes, and if I chime in, the joint material that we're using that's shown in this detail is the same finish as the panel itself. So ideally, you're just getting a little bit of shadow line relief, and you're not going to really see it as strong lines as you might think. And that's kind of why we have this concept rendering that we're showing here. You know, it's only going to be when the sun hits it in certain angles that you're even going to notice some of those panel lines. And it is intentional, but the reason we use the same material for both is for it to blend in. And again, like you see in this rendering, the metal panel portion of the building will read as a form in and of itself.
I mean,
could you go back to the what you just showed
Jack.
me showing the mounting? Go ahead.
Hey, Jack, really?
Yeah.
So when you look at that rendering, you don't see the mortar joints in the brick, just as you don't see the mortar, just as you see the reveals. So I think that's kind of analogous.
Correct. The joints themselves are, less than an inch thick, similar to what we have in mortar. So for a person scale, you're not going to notice it.
If we could go back to the detail of the mounting yeah. What is the gap there between panels?
So the joint?
Right there in the center. Where the joint is, it shows a gap between panels, between those two kind of cupping things. How big is that?
It's 3/4 of an inch.
Okay, and what's behind it?
So this is the hat channel that's connecting to the panels, which is then connecting to the substrate. So we have that's the mounting channel that we have.
Is the hat channel the same finish as the rest of the exterior?
The hat channel will just be a metal piece, but it's not visible to the exterior. It's something that's behind the panel and is hidden by the panel and the reveal joint.
But so there's a 3/4 inch gap that does expose it.
No, so here, let me zoom in here a little bit. If you see
I'll bet I have my zoomer.
The reveal piece is metal and is a metal piece that is in the silver finish and follows the profile of this red line. So the entirety of what's beyond it is covered.
Okay, so whatever the red line is all metallic.
Correct. And it's the same metallic finish as the panels that die into it.
Got it. Thank you. Anybody else on that? In my discussion with the absent commissioner, who told me he had lots of issues, one of the questions he had, which he caused me to have, and I'm still on page 3, is looking at the balconies here. The recessed, I see, you're going to have some of the recessed balcony area will be a contrasting gray mica panel. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you will have dark gray railings.
Yes, we'll have a painted dark railing.
Yeah.
So that'll kind of blend in and kind of have a good contrast to what we're showing for the silver on the facade.
I liked Mr. Hissam's idea of making these towers disappear, but the more contrasting detail we add to them, be they shadow lines or gray elements, the less these become extruded ethereal towers and the more detail, distracting detail they have on them. But that's just my opinion. Anyone else?
Well, it's really interesting because the Moxie probably has just as many pieces going together, and it goes away. So I think we're focusing on the elevation, and you're looking at all those lines, and I don't think you're going to see that.
Well, the Moxie doesn't have the balconies or the recessed parts in contrasting finish. The Moxie has windows. And I know you can't get away without having recessed balconies on this place and have units that are marketable, but I'm just wondering if there is, and I'm not a designer, and that's why I was hoping we'd have a full house of them here. But you know, I'm just wondering if this is going to work in terms of disappearing to reduce the apparent mass of the structure, because its actual mass is very, very large for the site it's on. And we only have one chance to do this right. So excuse me for being very nervous about making sure that when we do take this chance, it's going to work.
So if I can respond to that, the comment about the contrasting panel within the recessed balconies.
Yes.
The recess itself is creating a shadow, and having that contrasting material in there is just creating that recess to kind of go further away. So our goal is for the primary material, this bright silver, to stand out further, and having that differentiation within the balcony is helping it do so. So I think having the contrast does indeed help with the idea of having these towers kind of, as Commissioner said, disappear into the air, or kind of have the mass seem less prominent. Having those differences really does help push things into the background more.
Are these gray panels matte or reflective?
There is a little reflectivity to it. I think Priya has that information. They were also part of the samples that were up there that day that you stopped by. I'm not sure. We didn't pay a ton of attention to it.
I didn't pay any attention to them because I didn't know what they were for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they struck me as slightly reflected, but it's turned way down from the
Correct.
aluminum.
Correct.
Okay.
Were there any other comments we could address on materials or details from any of the other commissioners as well? Happy to talk a little bit more about some of this, but happy to answer other questions that might exist.
I'm going through my list, but go ahead. Somebody else, please pick up the ball and run with it. I've been monopolizing this conversation.
I have a question on the programming of the pool deck and whether or not there's a plan for music speakers.
We will likely plan for music speakers, but they will not be controlled by the residents. We have learned our lesson, and they will, and of course, we want to be good neighbors. They will be controlled by our office management staff. They will be turned off at a certain time, turned back on at a certain time. So it will be an AV plan similar to that for the 6th or the 7th floor roof terrace as well. So residents will not be able to turn it on at 2 a.m.
And are you planning to have a property manager on site 24/7 or just during daytime or not at all?
So we'll have a property manager on site during business hours, whether it's 9 to 5, 10 to 7, whatever that might be, just depending kind of on leasing and operations. But like at all our communities, we will have a full-time maintenance person on staff as well as an emergency on-call system, so that somebody is always on call if something happens and readily available to come to the property. So we found that's just the best way to do it.
I'll just
Thank
add,
you.
Aaron, our amenity spaces, indoor and outdoor, will auto lock at a certain hour. It's usually 7 or 8 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner questions?
Well, technically, having run out of discussion, what we would probably do next is vote. I don't know where Mr. Siwo is on this. The last I heard from him, he said this was too big. If that continues to be his view, this would fail 2-2. And then Mr. Shannon would have to come up with an application that were different enough that you could bring it back and we could have a new vote with all of us here.
Mr. Chairman, it's Mike. Can I respond to that?
Well, I think you can if you want. I was not meaning to use your name in vain, but I think that we agree that if you'd had a somewhat different application, then you could bring it back. And what is different is debatable. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you to
Yes, sir.
clarify. Did we lose Commissioner Hissom?
No, we have Hissom, I think, unless he left.
Well, if he did, you don't have a
Is
quorum.
Jeff here?
Yes.
You're right.
And he left without saying anything, so thank you.
There we are. That solves our issue, doesn't it?
Well, that's
Thank
not
you.
my only,
So-
Mr. Chair, could I just make one statement for the record?
You may. Now that I've used your name in vain, you deserve to
Well, I
respond.
just, if Mr. Hissom would hear, he would acknowledge that in previous testimony, he felt as one of the members that has been through this as long as you have, Mr. Chair, that we had crossed the Rubicon. And I think, I'm not telling you how to be chair, you're an excellent chair, but I think it's a disproportionate burden to put on that young man who's a relatively new member of the commission to, in my mind, put words in his mouth about what his opinion is. He had some legitimate concerns as a new member of this commission when he was indoctrinated at the late stages of this process. We've tried to fill in the blanks to the best of our ability. I think the fact that City Council passed the height variance and all the other attendant area variances that you also passed just a couple of weeks ago, City Council passed it unanimously, is an indication that was your decision was validated by the legislative authority. And I don't think it would be fair to put Mr. Iwo in the box of saying he would be the one responsible for whether or not we have to come for a reconsidering application. But having said that, Mr. Chairman, if we only have 3 members, it doesn't really matter what I have to say tonight because you can take action. So I'm obviously disappointed we don't have a quorum after 2 hours of testimony. And it was rather unceremonious the way it happened, but you can only control so much, I guess.
I am very sorry. I had expected that 2 more commissioners were going to check in at around between 5 and 5:15, and that did not happen. I don't know why, but I realize that it resulted in a great deal of inconvenience to you, to all of the applicant people, and I apologize for that. I'm just trying to move this along and get a decision if we could today, and it didn't work.
Perhaps we could have a special meeting.
I was tried to be very careful not to put words into Mr. Siwo's mouth, although I did quote one of his comments. But I don't think it's fair to make him the swing vote either, because it's far more efficient just to have the commission as a whole make a decision that's going to stick. Let's do it that way.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
I think
And
we have, I think we
appreciate
have, we have at least streamlined this so that the next time we meet, we are going to have a lot less to talk about. And hopefully you can get at the front of the
Particularly the special
agenda,
meeting, Mr. Chairman.
and we can
Mr.
have
Chairman.
enough people
Particularly
there
good-
to. Hopefully, Kim, you can arrange that Kaufman gets back at the front of the agenda and we can leave them there.
I will see what I can do. I make no promises, but most of the time when people leave, they let me know. So we could at least, vote and close the meeting. So I do apologize for that. I wasn't aware that somebody slipped off and we were without a quorum. Yeah, but Thomas, you are.
Yes, I have a question.
Well,
I think I believe that the question is for one of our speakers, Ms. Reinhardt, who spoke earlier. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I wanted to understand if you don't mind sharing, you mentioned you were concerned about accessing your garage. And so I have walked the property and very familiar with the location of everything. And so my question for you is, I wanted to understand where exactly you're located with respect to the issue that you raised there.
I'm here if it's okay if I answer.
Oh, sure, you may.
I am one of the two most affected properties directly across the alley from the building.
So you're
Have
on
you actually,
site.
Kathy, have you actually measured the clearance between your garage and the proposed footprint?
I have not, because I'm not a surveyor. So, if there's a zero variance, I don't really know where the alley ends. And that's one of my biggest concerns. I mean, is the alley 10
Maybe
feet
the
wide,
applicant
or is it 15 feet wide? I don't know.
Maybe the applicant who ought to know where their building's going to sit could help Ms. Reinhardt
I would
out.
appreciate that very much.
But I don't think this is the place to do it.
I agree. I was just answering.
All right. Can we do that?
Yes, yes. We'll connect.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do have one. I think Mike Shannon's having some technical issues. I do want to make one request. We are getting to the point in drawings where we really need to move forward. Thought this was going to be a productive meeting. It obviously was, but given kind of the unexpected issues with attendance, we would respectfully ask that a special meeting is called sometime in the next week or two prior to the May meeting. I think it would avoid a lot of time during that meeting. You could work on it with other applicants, and also it would assist us with our timeline, but also help eliminate some of the frustration here with the attendance issue. So we would like to request a special meeting.
The bylaws require, I think, either the chair or 3 commissioners request a special meeting. If the city, which ordinarily opposes them because of staffing issues, changed its mind in this case, would the 3 of commissioners present request a special meeting? Get this done one way or the other. Mr. Sewo.
I prefer not to have a special meeting. I was under the assumption that these are scheduled. Several of these we've gone over. Last meeting we went over for over an hour and a half. And so if the
Okay, that eliminate. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that gets us down to 2.
Well,
we have to wait a month, but we have to make a commitment to make a decision one way or another.
I think we've done special meetings in the past, Jack. Just to answer Commissioner Sewo's comment, we have given Kaufman special meetings over this past summer, previously to you joining the commission. It's not out of the bounds to request a special meeting, and if the city is open to it, we might have better attendance, because it doesn't matter that we've gone over time in the past. We do not have a quorum right now, so we can't vote even if we are three of us willing to stay late.
Yeah,
Right, no.
actually, a special meeting it doesn't add to the total time we have to devote to commission business. It just reallocates it, but yeah.
Here,
Right,
and
no,
as a,
I fully understand that. I'm simply stating that, you know, the purpose of our meeting today, we would have hoped that we would have had a full, which we did have a quorum for a portion of it, but frankly, if we would have had a quorum come 6 o'clock, I think we could have voted on this evening. And so the fact that we are now considering bringing a special meeting because we did not have a quorum beginning at 6 o'clock, I understand the circumstances, but nonetheless, I've cut out time out of my day to be here today, just like every other meeting, and I would have hoped that we would have been able to get this done today.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think everyone's sorry we didn't.
Right.
Well, Thomas, special meeting, yay or nay, if it moves the ball forward.
here, if I may, real quick.
Yeah.
Commissioner Zero, typically when we do a special meeting, we ask which commissioners can make it so we can ensure a quorum. So it's not a mandatory thing. It's more of a voluntary sort of thing. Just to kind of explain how it works. And I will note, I am staffing 2 commissions, so I'm not sure how feasible it would be to add another meeting to my already chaotic schedule, but I'll discuss with James Goodman when he's back in the office. He is off this week.
We've beaten this dead horse. I think we know where the cards lay as terms of a special meeting. If we can do it, I will exercise my authority as a chair to direct the city to do it if you can. If you can't, don't. One way or another, it should be relatively short next month if we get enough commissioners around to vote on this.
So
Alrighty?
what is the rule for moving a special meeting?
Either the chair or any 3 commissioners can request a special meeting.
All righty.
And so I'm going to use the chair part to give staff the freedom to call a special meeting without the agreement of 3 commissioners. I'm sure some of the absent ones would go along with it.
Fair enough.
Okay, do we have anything else to do today? Did anyone from the wood company end up showing up?
Well, Jack, we don't have a quorum. So we unfortunately
don't. Although it's a conceptual, we might as well adjourn. How's that?
yes. Do we still want to do a motion for
a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
So moved.
All right. Do we have a second?
We have a
We are adjourned.
Right.
Thank you, everyone. This is thank you, Aaron and Thomas. Thank you, applicants. This wasn't easy. We're doing the best we can. See you all whenever.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. I will be in touch. Have great evenings.